The scent of aged paper and forgotten leather was Ilara Vance's truest companion. Within the cavernous archives of the Grand Athenaeum, where sunlight struggled to penetrate the stained glass windows, she found solace amidst the dust motes dancing in the dim light. Her work as a senior archivist was precise, methodical, a dance between preservation and cataloging. Each document, each brittle map or handwritten ledger told a story. She believed in those stories, in the raw, unvarnished truth preserved between the covers. Until, that is, she started finding discrepancies. It began subtly, an almost imperceptible ripple in the vast ocean of data she navigated daily. While cross-referencing land deeds from the late 17th century with contemporary birth records, a common task, Ilara noticed a peculiar pattern. The lineage of the powerful Thorne family, a pillar of the city's aristocracy for generations, seemed to shift slightly depending on the document source. A son recorded in one ledger would be absent from another, replaced by a cousin with a conveniently similar name. Minor clerical errors, she initially dismissed them, the kind that naturally accumulate over centuries. But the pattern persisted, an elegant, almost artistic erasure. Her unease grew when she moved on to the Athenaeum's most prized collection, the founding documents of the city itself. Here, tucked away in climate-controlled vaults, were the original charters, the foundational decrees, the very blueprints of their civilization. As she carefully handled the fragile parchment detailing the city's first council members, she found the Thorne family name, predictably, among them. But a small, distinctive crest, usually present beside their signatures in every other official document from that era, was absent here. In its place, a blank space, almost as if it had been meticulously scraped away and the area treated to match the aged parchment. It was an omission, not an addition, which was far more unsettling. Someone had gone to great lengths to remove a symbol of association. Ilara's meticulous mind couldn't let it go. She started a private, unofficial investigation, pulling more documents related to the Thorne family and their contemporaries. She worked late, long after the library's old gas lamps had been extinguished, and only the emergency electrics hummed faintly in the distant halls. The silence of the night library, once comforting, now felt pregnant with unseen eyes. She found more instances. A sudden, unexplained wealth transfer that benefited the Thornes. Records of competing businesses mysteriously failing. Key public figures connected to the Thornes rising to power with alarming regularity. And always, always that missing crest, or a subtly altered phrase. The symbol, when present, was a stylized hand clutching an obsidian shard, almost like a piece of broken glass. Her colleague, Marcus, a jovial man who handled the library's digital archives, noticed her unusual hours. "Still chasing ghosts, Ilara?" he'd asked one morning, a steaming mug of lukewarm tea in his hand. She'd mumbled something about a particularly convoluted family tree. Later that week, Marcus was suddenly transferred to a satellite branch in the desolate Northern Territories, a move virtually unheard of for someone of his experience. The official reason was restructuring. Ilara knew better. She remembered asking him a casual question about the Thorne family's early land acquisitions just days before his transfer. A cold dread began to coil in her stomach. She started looking for the obsidian hand crest everywhere. Not just in Thorne family documents, but in records of other prominent families, in legal decrees, in the architectural blueprints of ancient public buildings. It was a phantom, sometimes there, sometimes not. But its presence or absence always seemed to denote a shift in power or influence. She began to suspect it wasn't just a family crest. It was a mark of something far larger, far more pervasive. A secret society. One evening, deep within a section of forgotten theological texts, she stumbled upon an anomaly that sent a shiver down her spine. An ancient tome on forgotten rituals, bound in dark, unmarked leather, sat on a shelf where it didn't belong. It was too pristine, too new compared to its decrepit neighbors. Inside, nestled within a hollowed-out compartment, was a single folded sheet of parchment. It bore the obsidian hand crest, crisp and clear. Beneath it, a series of intricately drawn symbols and a string of numbers. A cipher. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. Not an accidental discovery, but something deliberately placed, perhaps forgotten, or a message meant for someone else entirely. She spent the next few nights cloistered in her small apartment, poring over the cipher. Her knowledge of historical codes and obscure languages, a quirky hobby, now proved invaluable. After days of frustrating dead ends, a sudden flash of insight, combining a particular alchemical symbol with an obscure dialect, unlocked a single phrase. The obsidian hand guides the currents. The obsidian hand. The name resonated with chilling authority. It explained everything: the manipulations, the disappearances, the carefully orchestrated historical revisions. They weren't just a powerful family, they were a network, a shadow organization, pulling strings, shaping destiny. The very foundation of her city, her history, was a carefully constructed lie. Ilara tried to confide in Professor Armitage, her former mentor, a man she deeply respected, and who had always encouraged her analytical mind. She arranged a discreet meeting at a quiet cafe, far from the Athenaeum. As she began to explain, her voice hushed, her hands trembling as she laid out the fragmented evidence, Armitage's face remained impassive. "Ilara, my dear, the past is a messy business," he said, his voice unusually strained. "Conspiracy theories are a tempting distraction. You're simply overworked. Take a break." His eyes, however, held a flicker of something she couldn't quite place, a mixture of pity and warning. He quickly changed the subject, inquiring about her mundane archive work, effectively shutting down the conversation. The cold dread returned, stronger this time. She was truly alone. Even her trusted mentor seemed compromised, or perhaps simply unwilling to see. Driven by a desperate need for incontrovertible proof, Ilara returned to the Athenaeum, her senses heightened, every creak of the old building sounding like a threat. She knew the secret passages and forgotten nooks of the library better than anyone. There had to be more. She focused on the Thorne family's most extensive donations, a wing of the library entirely dedicated to their collected works and private papers, largely uncatalogued due to their immense volume. She remembered a rumor, an old custodian's tale, about a hidden vault beneath the Thorne wing, accessible only through a specific sequence of books. Working meticulously, she spent another 2 weeks, often at night, searching. The dust settled on her hair, her hands ached, but her resolve never wavered. Finally, behind a false back in a massive 16th century atlas, she found it. Not a vault, but a small, heavy iron door, disguised to blend perfectly with the stone wall. The handle was cold and ornate, bearing the unmistakable obsidian hand crest. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushed it open. Inside was a cramped, airless room, illuminated by a single flickering gas lamp. Stacks of leather-bound ledgers filled the shelves. She pulled one down, its cover blank save for a date, 1887 to 1890. Inside, handwritten entries detailed contributions and investments, not in money, but in influence, in strategic placements, in manipulated events. It was a chronicle of their power, a chilling testament to their meticulous long game. Further down, she found a recent ledger, its pages filled with names, modern dates, and, chillingly, current events listed as executed directives. She saw the names of prominent politicians, judges, even the recently appointed head of the Athenaeum, listed as associates. Then she saw it, a specific entry dated last week. Marcus Thorne, transfer to Northern Archives initiated by Hand Directive 731. Her colleague hadn't been reassigned by the library. He had been exiled by them. And at the bottom of the page, a chilling note. Ilara Vance, observing, potential risk. Status, pending. A sudden sound, a faint scrape of a shoe on the stone floor outside the hidden room, jolted her. Her breath caught in her throat. She wasn't alone. She slammed the ledger shut, her fingers fumbling with the latch of the iron door. Panic surged, cold and sharp. She heard muffled voices, growing louder, closer. They knew. They had known all along. With a desperate burst of strength, she heaved the door closed, just as a sliver of light appeared.